Happy Friday, TGIF, baby. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Jabbar here with Jared Smith, presented by Superbook Sports. Jared, how are you?
Oh, another day. Freezing here in Vegas today. Had to
Another
do the
day.
double coat walking my dog. I haven't gotten clothes for my dog yet. I think that's next on my list because I
Oh,
can
God.
see him being a little bit chilly when we go outside in the mornings. It's a little nippy here in Vegas, I'll admit. But besides that, everything's okay. Nice job, Mark Zinno. It went against all of us yesterday, including Club TA. Got the Texans home at 14. Both of us have egg on our face from that handicap, but we move on. The weekend awaits.
We move on after we break down the Thursday night football game. So let's recap it. We also have Kamla coming on talking about NFL, NBA. We have MLB playoffs. That series headed back to Houston. Game 6 coming up tomorrow, and then we have college football, week 10. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's bet it. Thursday night football preview. The Eagles stay undefeated, and Philly and Houston split games yesterday. They struggled early, though, against Houston. They tied at half. My first half spread didn't hit. Your full game spread didn't hit. I know you're a genius. I know you're watching the show right now. Philly, though, 8-0 for the first time in franchise history, which is pretty incredible. Jalen Hurts threw for 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dallas Goedert tearing it up in Houston as well. And I know that our guy, Prop Holiday, hit a prop over his reception yards. He had 8 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. I know the Eagles' defense underperformed a little bit for what we're used to seeing. They're still 8-0 on the season. And at this point, them looking to get to 10-0 is looking like a real thing at this point, Jared.
Oh, yeah. What do they play? They have a couple of cupcakes
Commanders
coming up
and the
before
Colts.
the Cowboys game,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, so the good news is one of my biggest preseason bets, and I think you might be on it too, Eagles over 8.5 wins. So
Mm-hmm.
barring some kind of epic collapse right now, I feel really good about that cashing. But last night's game, I think, can be boiled down to a few different things. In terms of the Eagles covering, there were 2 sequences that really led to the Eagles not covering. One was the turnover that Jalen Hurts committed. I'll call it a red zone turnover. They were like right on the fringe of the red zone. They were in like the mid-20s. That would have led to at least a field goal. Of course, the Eagles didn't cover by 2 points, so you can do the math. And then the second sequence was a little later in the game at the end of the first half. And that was the sequence, I think, that really was the cover for Houston. They get the ball with 2 minutes and change left, and they march down the field very quickly. It was really the only explosive drive we saw Davis Mills able to convert on, and they stuck it in the end zone. There was a little controversy there. He caught the ball in the end zone. He kind of dropped it and bubbled it, but I think he caught it long enough to where it was a touchdown. But it was a review, blah, blah, blah. There was arguments. The refs are on this side. The refs are on that side. There were some calls later in the game of roughing the passer on Davis Mills where the refs looked like they were on Houston. And then people, of course, were complaining the refs were on the Eagles when that pass was called incomplete. Regardless, it was reviewed, overturned. It was a touchdown. That, to me, was the moment that it pretty much flipped, and Houston was in good position to cover. Philly had a couple chances late to really put the hammer down, and they didn't fully do it, but they played well enough on a short week on the road to show you that they're a legit team. And I don't think the Eagles did anything last night to deter us from thinking that they're an elite team, one of the best in the NFC, and have a chance to win the Super Bowl. So all in all, a good performance from them. Just those couple of little moments. And when you've got a big spread, you've got to play a perfect 60 really to cover it. And, the Eagles had just enough warts last night to let the Texans in the game.
8-0, pretty incredible start to the season. The only undefeated team in the National Football League, and they are looking pretty. Well, the Texans 1-6-1. They are at the bottom of the AFC South. It's going to be interesting. We'll talk more with Rick Kamla when he gets here about NFL, NBA expectations for the season. I want to get into that MLB game last night because obviously we had 2 games between Philly and Houston. They split last night. The Eagles won. Philly's lost. The Astros now heading back to Houston. They're only 1 win away from winning the World Series. The Phillies, though, they had a chance to win Game 5. They left 12 runners on base. They went 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. And the Astros were gritty. They got it done in crunch time on the road. They took 2 of 3 in Philly. Now we have game 6 tomorrow night. Valdez, your guy, you love Valdez usually, taking on Wheeler. What do you think, Jared, so far has been the biggest takeaway for you of this series?
I think the surprising thing for me is the things I thought the Phillies would struggle with. They really haven't. Their defense has played
Mm-hmm.
pretty well. Nick Castellanos has made some really nice plays in the outfield, but overall, their bullpen's been pretty good. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers right now in the World Series. Both bullpens have been lights out. The Astros bullpen ERA is under 1. The Phillies bullpen ERA is 1.14. And that was kind
Yeah.
of going into the World Series what I expected the weakness to be for Philly and why Houston really, I thought, was going to win. But it hasn't turned out that way. It's really been timely. It always comes down to timely hitting, right? It's been timely hitting. The Astros had a couple more moments yesterday. They had a bunch of moments
Mm-hmm.
2 nights ago. And, once the Phillies went up 2-1, you saw the Astros championship instinct really take over. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
when we were analyzing these teams from April to now, the Phillies winning the World Series was never in our stratosphere. It was always they were a good team with a lot of talent, but when the rubber meets the road, the teams that pitch better and that play better defense are going to win. And the Phillies have done those things, but the Astros have done them just a little bit better. And that's why they're likely, I think they're minus 600 right now, which is like an 80% implied odds, going to win the World
Mm-hmm.
Series. And I think that's probably the right result based off of the full body of work this season.
Yeah, we have Valdez taking on Wheeler tomorrow for Game 6 back in Houston. All those fans are going to be pumped up. What does Houston need to do to clinch the World Series?
Score more runs than their opponent. No, I mean, I think
Love that.
I'll keep it very simple for our audience. I haven't looked at the baseball. I haven't looked at the line for tomorrow. Let's take a look right now.
Yeah, and I know we'll get
It's
into it a little bit
relatively
tomorrow too,
fair.
but
Yeah, it's relatively fair. It's about minus 140. I think the series ends tomorrow. I think our buddy Mattress Mac
mm-hmm.
finally gets his payday, right? Not the payday candy bar that we all love to eat, but an actual payday. I mean, it seems like he's been on the wrong side of all of these bets
Mm-hmm.
over the years with his major wagers, but it does look like he's going to get across the finish line here. Although, did you see the video of him getting cursed out by the Phillies fans and him cursing back?
No, I
Like
didn't. That's hilarious.
only Philly fans could make Mattress Mac seem like an a-hole. But he was like going
Oh
after.
my
He's like,
God.
F you, Like, you should watch that video. It's very funny. It's like old man yells at clouds while getting, wearing an Astros jersey. Pretty funny stuff. But I think Houston
That's
clinches the
great.
game tomorrow.
Yeah, you got the hard hitting from us. What does Houston need to do to the clinch? They need to score more runs than Philly. We'll
That's
have
it.
our eyes on that game tomorrow, Game 6. You want to know what else? Other games we're going to have our eye on is the Week 10 college slate. I know you have your Fox Sports show tomorrow. I'll be on the show with Zeno, so I'll be giving out my college football plays tomorrow morning on the show. But Week 10, Jared, there are a lot of really intense games going on, highlighted by the Vulcan on the Georgia Bulldogs, and I know you're on that game.
I am. I got to the window last night on Georgia, and I talked to a couple bookmakers, and I asked them if they think it's going to get down to 7, and they all said no. And that gave me some confidence that this is probably the best number we're going to get on Georgia. The fact that it has been overwhelmingly Tennessee money in the market so far. And when I say overwhelming, I mean like 90, it's like 90%. And the books don't care much. They're just going to keep taking on the Georgia or the Tennessee liability, and they're not going to move the line in favor of the Vols. So that leads me to believe that we're not going to see a whole lot of movement to that key number of 7. Even if it moves to 7.5, I don't feel like I'm missing the boat too much. Because let's be honest, how many games truly land 8? So I felt good about laying 8 here with Georgia. And we talked about it yesterday. I think strength on strength in this game, Tennessee's offense against Georgia's defense, a little tougher to handicap. I think both of those units will have their moments. I'm not going to say Hendon Hooker is going to be completely shut down in this game because I think that would be naive of me to say. But what I do think will happen is Georgia's offense will have a lot of success against Tennessee's defense. I like Todd Monken being able to design things, create some misdirection. I mean, if Florida's offense could put up a big number against this Tennessee defense at Rocky Top, I don't see why Georgia can't score 35, 40 points here. And maybe that's not enough to cover the spread, but maybe it is. And I would lean on the more experienced team in these spots, a quarterback that's won the national championship, and an offensive coordinator that was able to solve Alabama's defense on the biggest stage last year, eventually after Stetson Bennett got over his turnover issues. So as long as Stetson Bennett holds on to the ball, I feel confident that Georgia's going to cover this number.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually talking to Zeno about it last week on the Saturday show, and he said there's two kinds of teams this year in college football. There's the teams that want to outscore you, score 60 points a game. There's the teams that want to defensively hold you to 30 points a game. Georgia's one of those teams that wants to hold you defensively to 30 points. Tennessee's one of those teams that wants to outscore you by scoring 60 points. It's going to be a really interesting narrative to see these two teams take each other on. Okay, Colorado, a huge underdog to Oregon this week. But as we like to say, that's a lot of points that they're getting in this spot, and you feel the same way.
Sort of. I think it's just a really bad spot for Oregon. I've got this game at Oregon minus 26. And that's a pretty big disparity between what the rating systems that have been doing really well this year that I follow pretty religiously and what the number is telling us. Now, situationally, like I said, Oregon's played some really tough games, and they're kind of in this lull of their schedule before things really heat up down the stretch. Oregon right now, their goal should be don't get hurt in this game, and then next week, I forget who it is. It's another bottom feeder. And then the last two games, it's Utah, and then it's Oregon State, their big rivalry. And those two games are going to decide whether or not Oregon goes to the college football playoff or not. And so right now they're kind of in that throttle down mode. So this isn't exactly like this big analytical, bet on Colorado because I see all these edges for the Buffaloes. The Buffaloes are a really crappy football team. Let's call it what it is. But
yeah,
the number's wrong here. I think this number should be below that key number of 28. And we're getting not only through that key number, but also through the secondary key of 31. So I think 31 and a half will not be there long. My guess is this closes beneath 31 on Saturday. Just a hunch. Wink, wink.
Yeah, we'll see how that one plays out. Texas, though, they have a pretty big game. This spread is not set super high. Laying 2.5 points here against a Kansas State team that's ranked number 13. What side are you taking in this one?
Yeah, so this one I'm going against what my numbers say here. And that is unlike what I normally do, but there are some very respected groups that we've talked to here on the show and that we've had on the show at some point that really like Texas in this spot. And that got me to kind of push my number aside and see where those numbers might be wrong. When I dug into it a little bit more, I wasn't fully confident in the Kansas State quarterback situation. It does appear that Adrian Martinez is still significantly less than 100%. And I think it might be Will Howard again this week. If it is Will Howard again this week, my guess is this number closes through that key number of 3. Probably it might close at 3 or 3.5 in that range. So Will Howard, I think, is a nice quarterback, but at the end of the day, Adrian Martinez really is the only guy that I think has a chance to actually beat Texas in this spot. And this is also a really tough spot for Kansas State schedule-y. Texas is off the bye. You've got Steve Sarkisian, who I think is going to throw some wrinkles here. And we've discussed this at times. It was during the Oklahoma week when I really dived into Texas's defense. Pete Kwiatkowski, the defensive coordinator, former defensive coordinator at Washington under Chris Peterson. He's the architect of those great Boise State defenses that, won all those games back in the day with Coach Peterson, went to Washington, had some really good years at Washington. Now he comes over to Texas. They bring in Gary Patterson this year as a special assistant, and this Texas team is top 15 in schedule adjusted efficiency. They have the kind of defense that can shut down Deuce Vaughn. And if you shut down Deuce Vaughn, you shut down K-State. Look, Quinn Ewers and the Texas offense have been a little volatile this year. But again, number below 3 feels fair. And if this does turn out to be Will Howard, not Adrian Martinez, this will close higher than 3.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really good games going on this week. One of them being TCU taking on Texas Tech. I know it's not really a battle, but I feel like TCU is a team here where they feel a little slighted, maybe. The drama of one loss Alabama being ranked above them in the college football rankings this week. The committee obviously not impressed with those close games. I feel like they're going to absolutely want to crush Texas Tech here.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a fascinating game. I think Texas Tech is a little bit underrated in some areas. Very young at quarterback, defense improving. It- TCU is. I am waiting for TCU to let down. I don't think. I think the committee sees a lot of the same things that we see on the analytics side, and that's TCU's
Mm-hmm.
defense has really underperformed this year. If you look at some of their results, they've been very high scoring, very volatile, close games. The game against Kansas, the game against Oklahoma State, I could see TCU slipping up. And I don't
Yeah.
think if for example, they play Texas next week, I think. Maybe next week, not it might be 2 weeks from now. It's very soon. It's their next game on their schedule after Texas Tech. That's the game I really see TCU slipping up in. And maybe this is a look ahead. So yes, there's definitely some angry vibes in Fort Worth right now, but we'll see how they translate to on the field. I'm not running to the window to lay a big number with TCU though with that defense. That's the one thing that scares me with that TCU team is their defensive numbers have not been good this year, and I think eventually it will cost them a game. Maybe not this week, but I think
Absolutely.
eventually it will cost them a game.
We're going to see what happens. We'll have the full breakdown of all the college football games tomorrow morning. Zeno and I on the show. Jared's doing his Fox Sports show. So make sure to tune in. We love to see it. Okay, let's take it from boys to men. College football to NFL, bringing Rick Kamla from Mad Dog Radio. You can find him on Twitter at Rick Kamla Sports. Rick, happy Friday. How are we doing today?
Lauren, I'm a huge fan of yours. I have
Oh,
been, I don't know, the last couple of
wow.
years here, Bally Sports with my boys Bob Rathbun, Dominique Wilkins on
Yes.
the Hawk broadcasts. I used to work on the home of the Hawks, not on the game in Atlanta for 7 years, taking my sons, my wife to Phillips Arena, now State Farm Arena, a million times. You are killing it as the sideline reporter, Lauren.
Oh.
The energy that you bring, the way the players react to you, A's all across the board, and I'm psyched to be on with you guys, man. What's up?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I'm just like on cloud nine right now. Thank you. That was like the nicest way to start my Friday morning, Rick. Seriously, I so appreciate it. We're excited to have you on the show too to talk NFL and NBA. Let's start with NFL because we were just talking college football, transition to the men out here. Eagles now 8-0 to start the season. For you, just looking across the board, because I feel like we've seen some teams who we didn't necessarily think would perform well, performing really well, and teams that we thought would be great, like the Raiders, kind of underachieving the expectations. Which team do you feel has the most to prove this week heading into week 10 or week 9?
Just for
Yeah, week 9.
yeah, I think on my Better Sports Network show, I had a guest. And I'm like, what week are we going into here? Lauren,
I
I made
know.
the same exact
They all blend.
like it's the same thing. I had the Raiders in the playoffs coming into this year. I had not a big opinion on the Raiders. I had a playoff opinion on the Raiders, and they've lost all these close games, and the season's going sideways for them. Now, to answer your question, to me, I'm looking at the three usual suspects who are in this moment rotting carcasses of a football team. I'm talking about the LA Rams, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Green Bay Packers. These are teams that we were like, there's no way they miss the playoffs. There's no way Tampa Bay doesn't win the NFC South. There's no way Green Bay doesn't win the NFC North. There's no way the Rams don't win the NFC West. They were the big boys. They were literally the three big boys of the NFC. And all three teams absolutely suck. It is a horrible I know Halloween just happened. It's a horror movie watching these teams play football. You have quarterbacks that are old and rickety and can't move anymore. You have offensive lines that can't protect them. And it's just, there's also just a spark and an intangible missing with all three of these football teams. Brady's got 1 foot out the door, already thinking about the 37 mil per year with Fox. Aaron Rodgers looks like he's about to schedule a retirement press conference, but he's so aloof, he probably won't even schedule the press conference. He'll just dip out and say, I'm done. And the Rams are suffering from a major Hollywood / Super Bowl hangover. I've noticed a lot of players go out to LA, guys, and they get soft. I think LeBron James has fallen into this trap. I think he's softer than he used to be. Anthony Davis, they won the chip, and then Anthony Davis shut it down literally for 2 years. And he's playing again this year. He's playing really well. He shut it down for 2 years after winning a championship. So Hollywood has a way of really softening people up. And I see that happening with the Rams right now. Attaboy, attaboy, attaboy. You guys are the best. You guys are the best. It popped their head so big, and now they've come, and they haven't been able to sort of rekindle the fire. So those are the 3 teams to me, and 2 of them are playing together here with the Rams down where I'm at in Tampa, on Sunday against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, that game should be interesting. I'll be honest, Rick. Someone's got to win that game, right? So if you had to pick one of these teams to kind of break out of that snap that you're talking about, maybe LA gets a little harder on the East Coast. Maybe Tampa Bay finally figures things out, getting a little healthier on defense this week. One of those teams has to break out of this doldrums this week. Which one do you think it'll be?
I say this kiddingly. We could have a 13-13 tie, right? We could,
that would be hilarious.
These teams suck so bad they may just play to a 13-13 tie. But I have Tampa Bay -3 here. They have more to play for. I feel like the season has already slipped away from the Rams. They've got the Cam Akers controversy going on, and they can't protect Matt Stafford. They might have the worst RB room in the NFL. They don't have enough targets. Cooper Kupp is the only thing they have going on offense. Now he's got a bad wheel. It's just all heading in a really negative direction for the LA Rams. I don't have a whole lot better to say about Tampa Bay, other than they are still in a race to win a division, a lousy division. They're 3-5. Atlanta is 4-4. They're at home. Brady has had a tendency to play a little bit better at home this year than he has on the road. And we're literally nitpicking, a couple of oranges at the farmer's market that aren't real ripe. And so we're picking between 2, God, both of these oranges look like crap, but I really want an orange. I got to pick one of them. And so that orange is and I guess coincidentally here, they got a little orange in their uniform, maybe at least old school, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I don't feel great about it. I really don't.
It is honestly insane that how bad the NFC South is, and the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers still have an opportunity to possibly win that division. I also feel decently okay about the Atlanta Falcons. Maybe that's because I'm here in Atlanta, possibly taking the crown of that division as well. Let's shift to NBA for a second. We're about 8-9 games in, depending on which team you're talking about. Right now, the Dallas Mavericks are sitting at 4-3, but Luka Doncic, man, he is definitely not like LeBron James. He is not soft, and he's kind of running away with the MVP already. I know it's early, but have you liked what you've seen from him so far?
I have, and let me clear up the LeBron thing. I think he's not soft. He's softer than he used to be. Let me just clean that up here.
Yeah,
softer than he used to be. There are some guys in the NBA, and I won't mention their names and smear them and stuff. There are some guys that just love missing games. They get on that sideline and they're chilling and they're good, and I can't stand that.
Yep.
It drives me crazy. Where is the will? Where is the love of the game? For the love of God. My preseason MVP pick was Luka Doncic. Once upon a time, back when Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City for Golden State, I told the world that Russell Westbrook was going to average a 30-point triple-double and win MVP. Bam, bam. We got both of those right. And a lot of people to this day, he shouldn't have won MVP. Sit down and silence yourself. It was the first triple-double in a season since Oscar in the early 1960s. So we nailed that one. I have a similar tickle this year with Luka. I predicted from Luka a 30, 10, and 10 triple-double for the season. The last 3 years, if you aggregate them, he's been at 28, 9, and 9. All we need is 2 more points, 1 more board, 1 more dime per game to get 30, 10, and 10. He came into this year, obviously, in the best shape of his life. He started working out earlier in the offseason as opposed to partying his face off. He played with the Slovenian national team all summer, which got him in really primetime shape. Now, he's not chiseled and rocked up and all that kind of stuff. I just need you to be less doughy, okay? Less just sort of that carb weight, perhaps that vodka weight, right? You know what I'm saying? Just that extra puffy 10 pounds.
Yeah.
It's going to make you better. And Luka has taken that weight off, and he's going like 36-9-9 right now, leading the league in scoring. He's connected every dot to what I thought he would be this year. We need one more board, we need one more dime. But the problem is the Mavericks' record isn't where it needs to be for him to win MVP.
Yeah.
We got to be talking about a 50-win team here, a team in the top 4 in the West. I think eventually they will get there because, and really specifically, obviously him, but Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock and what the difference they make guarding perimeter players. And the Dallas Maverick defense is elite, especially down there in Dallas. Jason Kidd's a hell of a coach. He's proven that. He's sort of reclaimed his coaching career. So I really like the Dallas situation down there, even without Jalen Brunson. I think they will get around 49, 50 wins. They will be hovering around that 4 or 5 zone. And if Luka, look, if he goes 36-9-9, a lot of the voters are going to be like, okay, like I'll vote for you second place or third place. Like if Giannis has ballistic stats and the Bucks have won 58 games, well then you're going to have to do something to overcome that. And what you're going to have to overcome that with is averaging a triple-double in a year. So he's close, but he's got work to do. But I've been very happy with what I've seen so far. Unfortunately, Luka was the number 1 pick in every single fantasy draft I was in. And so I don't have any shares of Luka Doncic this year, which sucks. But it is what it is. I'm invested in a big opinion on him to win MVP. And so far, kind of so good.
Yeah, the market definitely agrees with you. Giannis right now, 3-1. Luka's about 4-1. So you're saying you would still favor Giannis to win the MVP this year because of the Mavericks' overall team record?
I mean, I'm going to hang in there with my Luka prediction because I think wins are going to come. You guys both know that it's early in the season. There's so many nutty results right now.
Yeah.
Utah is 6-3, and San Antonio has a really good record and all this. And they got beat by 800 points the other night to Toronto. So we're just seeing some nutty stuff here early on, and there are some mirages. There are some trends. I'm starting to wonder about Golden State here. We're 3-6. We're 0-5 or 0-4 on the road, whatever it is. They lost to Orlando last night, and I like Orlando's young crew. Jalen Suggs literally went Jordan on them last night. How do you let that happen if you're Golden State? So I'm not getting off of Luka for MVP here, but I will acknowledge, and I thought this coming into the year. I had Luka 1, I had Giannis 1A. I really thought it would condense to a 2-guy race between those two. And obviously now on the periphery, we've got guys like John Morant and Donovan Mitchell and Jason Tatum and a lot of guys are having really spectacular years, and they're going to enter the race to a degree. But right now, it's Giannis, it's Luka. And again, like Giannis is going to have a killer record. He is. And so for Luka to trump that, he's not going to win as many games as Giannis. Giannis and the Bucks are going to win the East in the regular season, okay? I don't think the Mavs are going to win the West in the regular season. Luka's got to get that triple-double in the season to win this MVP, and we shall see.
We shall see. Rick, that's amazing. Bucks right now 7-0 on the season. The Suns 6-1 on the season, and the Nets, they're 2-6. It's just crazy seeing some of these trends. The biggest trend or lack thereof that has surprised you so far in the NBA before we let you go. Did you expect the Bucks to be 7-0 to start the season?
Not 7-0, but really good. Utah at 6-3 is staggering. But you watch this team, you kind of dig into this team a little bit. Let's break it down. Kelly Olynyk is a good player. Malik Beasley is a good player. Mike Conley is a good player. Jared Vanderbilt is a good player. Colin Sexton is a good player. They have a bunch of good players. They don't have a great player. They don't have a Batman or a Robin. Markkanen is having a fantastic year. They've got a bunch. They've got 6, 7, 8 good players. Okay. Why wouldn't you have a good team if you have 6, 7, 8 good players? See what I'm saying? So I think Utah, if they stay healthy and if they continue to sort of go for it like they will be in the play-in tournament mix. Now, the thing is, there's this 7'5" phenom over in France that has all of our attention. So at what point do the Utah Jazz say, all right, this has been fun. We've tantalized our home crowd. We've given them what they want for a minute. I don't know what their TV network is out there, but they've given Bowler Jack and their Holly Rowe and the whole. They've given them some thrills here early in the year. Now it's time to power down and hit the tank button. But if they decide to keep playing their guys and maybe become a buyer instead of a seller, like they could actually be a play-in tournament team because they do have a collection of good players, despite trading off Pat Bev and Royce O'Neal and Gobert and Mitchell and Bojan. Five guys they said goodbye to. It lets you know like how good Utah could have been if they would have kept their guys together. And then just the scoring binge in the NBA, 9 guys averaging 30. Like half the league is averaging 115 points a game. Scoring is like at an epic pace right now so far.
Yeah, it's incredible to see how the NBA season is going to be moving forward. We're 9 games in, a lot more to go, and I'm sure we're going to be talking to you throughout the season. Rick, we so appreciate you for coming on, and thank you for pumping my tires early in the show. That started off this day great.
I love.
Oh, I think he's muted.
Oh, my bad.
No,
I wasn't muted. Sometimes I have to mute when I do my nighttime show because my baby's like, ah, wow, 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 wow. And I got to like mute my mic a little bit because there's some interference coming in. But say hi to Bob and Neek for me. And I love the city of Atlanta to this day and let them know that I went on the air with you and we had a lot of fun and go Hawks.
I definitely will. Thank you so much, Rick. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Best of luck with your bets.
All right, y'all. You too.
Thank you. That was Rick Kamla from Mad Dog Radio. You find him on Twitter at Rick Kamla Sports. All right, let's talk about Superbook Sports now. Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports, the best place to bet and watch football this season. So download the Superbook app or visit superbook.com right now, and they're going to match your first bet up to $1,000, whether it wins or whether it loses. Plus, they have lines up for every NFL game for the rest of the season. The #1 voted sportsbook in Vegas, now available in the palm of your hand. Visit superbook.com to join. Gerard, superbook.com to Pickswise.com. 3-star play of the day. Who do we got today?
Well, we have a race at Keeneland later this afternoon, which is not in Australia. It's in Kentucky. Just confirming that now. The Bulls and the Celtics total. Matt Wadley has actually 2 bets tonight. Bulls Celtics total, Bucks T-Wolves against the number. Philip Tomich has a Warriors Pelicans ATS pick. And we've got plenty of stuff on the site for you tomorrow, including college football and English Premier League football, all that fun stuff. So head to Pickswise.com. Check it out.
Awesome. Pickswise.com. Check it out. Now, our 3-star play of the days, or best bet of the days, if you will, you're taking it to college.
Yeah, we got some interesting college action tonight. I actually kind of like UConn a little bit too, but the number was a hair high for me. So I pivoted away from that game, and we are turning our attention to the ACC. Duke at Boston College over there up at Chestnut Hill. We're going to lay it with the Dukies tonight. Good spot for them. They're off the bye. They blew out Miami a couple of weeks ago, looking for their 6th win, trying to get bowl eligible. I love playing on teams, getting that 6th win. It is a big motivational factor. And Boston College just is in total freefall. We faded them last week. We took UConn plus the points. I don't know how. Boston College was a road favorite at UConn. They lost the game outright by double digits. They have now lost 3 straight games by a lot of points, and they've scored just a combined 21 in those games. They've lost all 3 by double digits. Against the number this year, Duke has overachieved, 5-3 against the spread. Boston College, massive underperformer, 1-7 against the spread this year for those BC Screaming Eagles. Every major box is checked for Duke here. Yards per play margin, Duke's a positive, Boston College is a negative. Points per play margin, Duke's a positive, Boston College is a negative. Schedule adjusted defensive efficiency, Boston College, 105th. Duke in the top 60. Everything I see, adjusted line yards on the offensive line, Duke is 9th, top 10 team. They get a lot of movement up front. Boston College, dead last, 131st. Every single metric says that there is a wide gap between these teams. Is 10 points a lot of points to lay on the road? Sure, absolutely. But I feel confident that Duke is going to put the hammer down tonight in BC, at BC, whatever you want to say. So Duke laying 10.
ACC at BC, Duke laying the points. I'm taking it across the pond all the way to Finland, where the Blue Jackets are taking on the Colorado Avalanche. 2-game slate between the 2 teams in Finland. Oh, yeah. They were supposed to do these 2 games back when I worked for the team, fall of 2020. But obviously that didn't happen for, COVID reasons, and so they pushed it back a couple seasons to this year. But both teams are coming off of the losses in the USA, and they both need a change of scenery at this point. The Blue Jackets have struggled on the defensive side. Oh, I didn't even take what bet I'm taking. I'm taking the over 6.5 in this spot of the Blue Jackets Colorado Avalanche game. It's -112, laying 12 cents for it. But the Blue Jackets have really struggled on the defensive side this season. They've allowed 44 goals. The Avs have only allowed 27. But the Avs are coming off of back-to-back losses here in the U.S. against the Islanders and the New Jersey Devils. And the Blue Jackets last game, they got absolutely destroyed by New Jersey, 7-1. Elvis Merzlikins, he saw 53 total shots in that game, and they really struggled. The Blue Jackets did, defending the forecheck with the Devils' speed that they have. They're 3-7 on the season now. They rank 26th offensively and 30th in defense. Now I look at this game, what the Avs have going on for them on the offensive side. They're dealing with a little bit of the Stanley Cup hangover, to be honest, at this point. They're coming off of those back-to-back losses like I talked about. Gabe Landeskog, their captain, out another 12 weeks after having a knee surgery. Val Nichushkin had 12 points in 7 games, but he missed a couple of games. You still have guys like Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, who's now playing in his home country in front of the Finland fans, so he's going to want to show up and show out. And then you have on the other side Patrick Laine, who's playing in front of his home fans too, being from Finland as well. And with the way the Colorado defense has been playing, I feel like the over is the best bet, or the Columbus defense has been playing. The over for me is the best bet. I know the Avalanche defense is really good, but I feel like their offense is good enough to be able to score some points, especially against a goaltender like Elvis Merzlikins, who's really been struggling this season. And also the Jackets defense has been struggling to limit shots in general. The over is hit in 7 of the 9 games that the Blue Jackets have played so far. And the over is 5-1-1 in Colorado's last 7 matchups against Columbus. So I'm taking the over. It's the safest bet for me here. Over 6.5. That game starts at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure to get that bet in. The Jackets take it on the Avs. Over 6.5. That's it for us today, guys. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. For Jared Smith, I'm Lauren Jabbar. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's bet it.